This video is brought to you by America First Insight. Help support the growing conservative movement by becoming a member today. And if you want to support this channel, you can also use the code REAL when becoming a member. Thank you and enjoy the video. As everybody probably knows, the 2028 presidential election is a couple years away, and that's part of the reason why we haven't talked about it that much. Now, to be fair, we have talked a little bit about it on the Democrat side, because the Democrats, they have a very divided field potentially. You have Harris, you have Newsom, and there's been a lot of movement on that front. But for the Republican Party, we haven't really heard much outside of building speculation that more than likely it's going to be Vance in 2028, and a good chance his running mate would be Marco Rubio. And some people are critical about that, but again, anything could happen in the next couple of years, but that's kind of that's the most likely outcome. Vance is the nominee, and Marco Rubio, he's going to be the running mate. But Axios dropped a bombshell today, as according to them, Ted Cruz set stage for 2028 run with Tucker jabs. And yes, this is real. It sounds like Ted Cruz, the Zodiac Killer, he's probably going to run for president yet again, which is just crazy to say. I mean, everybody thought that he was done. Everybody thought after 2016, you're not going to win the nomination. And there was a chance he might have ran back in 24, but it obviously never happened. But now he's ready for 2028? Really? At this point, my question is why? Just look at the polling as of now. You're at 4%. I mean, I'm not exaggerating. He is polling at 4%. With some polls like Emerson, they have him at 2%. It is so pathetic that he is doing worse than RFK, a former Democrat. And I know RFK, it's a very unique circumstance. Same thing with Gabbard. Very unique set of circumstances. I get that. But still, Ted Cruz right now, he's pulling at 4%. Worse than Haley, worse than Ramaswamy, Rubio, DeSantis, and of course, J.D. Vance, who already is nearly cracking 50% of the vote. Now, that part of that is name recognition, I get that, but still, he is already basically cracking 50% of the vote, and it's not even 2026 yet. He hasn't even officially announced, and there's some polls that have him cracking nearly 60%. Yeah, back in April, he was at 60%. June, 60%. So yeah, there are polls that have Vance basically cracking 58, 59, 60% of the vote already. That's with a very contested field on the Republican side. But this moron, Ted Cruz, he really thinks that in 2028, it's going to finally be his chance. And to be honest, it probably is his last chance to run. And he's not going to win, obviously. But he's probably not going to run for Senate again. That's what it sounds like. And so he's like, screw it. Might as well run one final time to try to be the nominee and hopefully president. That's his Hail Mary. But even if Vance doesn't run, you're still going to take like 4th place. Because if it's not Vance, more than likely, it would be Rubio. If it's not Rubio, it would be somebody like DeSantis. Hell, Nikki Haley would have a better chance of winning the nomination than Cruz does. That's why it's just baffling. It's not like 2016 where he's getting 25% of the vote, 30%. He's beating Trump in some states. You're pulling at 4%. As of now, could it go up? Yeah. But do you think you could take down Vance? Texas Senator Ted Cruz is laying the groundwork for a 2028 presidential bid by leaning into his feud with Tucker Carlson and staking out turf as a traditional pro-interventionist Republican. My God, you can't make this up. Seriously? A traditional pro-interventionist Republican? That's what Axios reports here. That's his strategy. Not to run as a reformed person that joined MAGA or whatever. No, he's running as a traditional 2016 style Republican that can never win. Hell, back in 2016, Ted Cruz still got crushed. Across the board, he still got crushed. The only reason he lasted as long as he did was because of the Never Trump vote. In 2016, that was still a large chunk of the Republican base. A lot of these people are now Democrats, but back then, they were so desperate to stop the orange man. Then they voted for Ted Cruz. They first started behind Jeb Bush. We all know how that went. Then, and went to Marco Rubio. He got crushed in Florida. And finally, Ted Cruz, aka the Zodiac Killer, he was their last-ditch effort to stop the orange man. And it failed. By poking at Carlson's isolationist foreign policy views, accusing him of anti-Semitism and more, Cruz is putting himself on a collision course with Vice President Vance, a Carson ally, widely seen as a GOP frontrunner in 2028. And he is. J.D. Vance, unless something absolutely crazy occurs, he will be the nominee in 2028. This delusional push by Ted Cruz and the Republican establishment, it's crazy. The senators also diving into issues that are tearing at President Trump's MAGA movement, namely, of course, Israel. Now, this is a very, very touchy subject for a lot of people. It's a big divide within the Republican Party, especially within Trump's movement, like Axios reports. But if we're being honest here, basically nobody within the base, except like Ben Shapiro and like Mark Levin, like 1% of the party, they agree with what Ted Cruz stands for. Even most pro-Israel people within the party, they're going to say hell no to this. I mean, you're running around and you're attacking Tucker Carlson and saying, oh, we have to stop anti-Semitism and we have to stand with Israel no matter what they do. We have to give them our $1 trillion. Do you think that's popular? Really? It's not popular now. What do you think's going to happen in 3 years? More and more people are getting sick and tired of this bullshit. They're sick and tired of the same crap being pushed for decades now. It's over. You can be pro-Israel, fine, whatever. But they really think that if you just run on this one single issue, you're going to magically win 100 million voters. You're going to win a historic landslide. No, you're not. We have a responsibility to speak out even when it's uncomfortable. Cruz said in a statement to Axios, when voices in our own movement push dangerous and misguided ideas, we can't look the other way. I won't hesitate to call out those who peddle destructive, vile rhetoric and threaten our principles and our future. What principles? The average person says you're full of crap. That's what's confusing about this. He is going to really run on one issue. Israel. That's always going to run on. How much he supports Israel. That's it. Not the economy, immigration, even other foreign policy things like, I don't know, like the war in Ukraine, which at that point is probably over, but still, you're going to run on a single issue that with each passing day is becoming more and more politically toxic. And you're going to bash one of the most popular people on the right, Tucker Carlson? Really? Somebody that millions of people watch? That's politically stupid. And Carlson, he kind of just laughed at this. He said, good luck. That's my comment and blah, blah, blah. It's just a mess. Cruz has been going after Carlson relentlessly in recent weeks, including on his social media feed and in speeches before GOP donors and conservative activists. Yeah, and in fact, that's hurt him even more because all he's talking about is Tucker Carlson is bad because he does not like Israel. Therefore, I'm going to talk about this issue 24/7. Nothing else, nothing about impeaching judges, nothing about cost of living, just Tucker Carlson is bad. Wow. Well, what a great start to this campaign. And it all started because he went on Carlson's podcast back in June, and everybody remembers that was a disaster. It was an utter disaster for Cruz. He said some crazy stuff on there, and it's like, dude, really? That is your campaign. And of course, he says that Tucker has gone batshit crazy on foreign policy, has gone off the rails. Listen, I'm not even agreeing with everything Carlson says on some issues, but like I said, the average person probably agrees with Tucker Carlson on most foreign policy than they do with you. Seriously, do you think the average voter loves giving $10 billion to Israel or whatever? No. You can be pro-Israel. That's not even really the problem. It's just when you make it your entire campaign, you talk about it constantly. You talk about it. It's a hypocrisy of it. That's why people have major issues with this. It's gonna get even worse. And it's just it's political suicide to go down this rabbit hole. But Ted Cruz, he's delusional. He's gonna bank his entire campaign on a strategy that couldn't even work 10 years ago. But it's gonna magically work in the year 2028 when the average voter is sick and tired of hearing about this issue. Really? You can't just call everybody anti-Semitic and win the presidency. That's not going to happen. It doesn't work. But that's Ted Cruz. That's his current strategy going into 2028. Now, do I think he wins a nomination? Hell no. Even if Vance doesn't run, even if Rubio doesn't run, it'll be DeSantis. Hell, it would be Haley. Even Ramaswamy would have a better chance of winning. I'm not even a fan of him, but it's like, Cruz is not going to win the nomination. He's going to raise $100 million, though, and burn through all of it. Try to win Iowa and get like 20% of the vote there, and that's it. He's going to waste so much money gaslighting people like Ben Shapiro into thinking they could still take over the party. Like, yeah, we're going to retake our party, everybody. No, you're not. It's just baffling. I mean, at least pretend to convert to MAGA or whatever. At least Marco Rubio, say what you will about him on some stuff as Secretary of State. At least he has much better rhetoric than he did 10 years ago. But now you have Ted Cruz running around and stuff that's just politically toxic and thinking that's going to win. That's going to win you over a bunch of voters. Maybe in Iowa, a lot of evangelical types, but even then they're getting sick of this. And a lot of them are going to vote for Vance anyways. So what do you got? You have like Democrats who want to oppose Vance and never Trump Republicans that hate Vance. That's all you got. And that's maybe what, 10% of the vote? If that? Even then, a lot of Democrats, will they vote for Ted Cruz? Because, especially with some of the stuff he said in the past. I doubt it. So you got nobody. You have nobody backing you. And your plan is try to upset JD Vance or hell, even Marco Rubio. It's just, wow. These people are delusional. I'm stunned how delusional Ted Cruz and company is. It's just, wow. It's shocking to me. Because you would have thought that he would have realized it was over and not even consider this, but he must realize he's going to retire, so to him, why does it matter? It's going to waste $100 million on nonsense. He's got 20% of the vote in Iowa, if that, and that's that. That's the end of the primary. 20% of the vote in Iowa, gets crushed everywhere else, drops out. That's what's going to happen. Same thing happened with DeSantis. But you could argue Ted Cruz would probably do worse than DeSantis. Significantly worse, because at least DeSantis was likable for a little bit, and he was a great governor, and, you know, he was at his peak his popularity. Ted Cruz isn't. He's not been popular for 10 years, at least within the base, at least relevant, I should say. So, yeah, it's one of those things where Ted Cruz would never win the nomination, wouldn't even get through Iowa. But the sad thing is, despite everything you say about him, he is still technically one of the better senators in the U.S. Senate. That's how bad our bench is on the Senate, by the way. When you have Tucker Carlson, or I should not Tucker Carlson, but Ted Cruz, he is one of your best senators. Just because everybody else is so bad that him being like below average of some issues, that's an improvement over Mitch McConnell, over Lisa Murkowski. But anyways, folks, thank you so much for watching. If you guys did enjoy, smash the like button down below, subscribe, share with your friends, and of course, join the channel today. Godspeed to all of you.